So let me introduce Sally Borner, who is from West Midlands Police. She's Chief Superintendent. Is that your slide, Sally? I really hope so. You're looking at me to say, that's not my slide. Luckily, they're on this one, just for you. There you go, my dear. Brilliant. So just right-click.
Right, and the microphone. Goodness me, multitasking. Good evening, everybody. Lee, firstly, thank you for the introduction. David, thank you for the invitation. Lovely to be here. I'm going to try and stick to time. I think I've got about 10 minutes, and then we'll be followed by colleagues from the fire service, and I think there'll be plenty of opportunities for questions thereafter. I'm a police officer with West Midlands Police, the second largest policing organisation in England after the Met, the third largest in the UK after the Met and Police Scotland, with over 10,000 colleagues. What I'm going to do today is share with you the fundamental importance of linking people and digital together, because digital is fundamentally about culture change. It's not about tech for tech's sake. It's actually about how digital enables us to connect more effectively with people and provide an ever more effective policing service. Those of you who are on Twitter, if you're not already following, always after more followers, at Salby WMP. Lots of policing stuff, but loads of other random things on there as well, so hopefully you'll find it entertaining. Okay, so I'm just going to give you a little bit of a flavour around the transformation journey that we, West Midlands Police, are on and started a number of years ago. It won't have escaped people's attention that the world is changing very fast. All of you working in the digital sphere will recognise and understand the changing environment and world within which we live and the complexity and the speed of that. So, just over 2 years ago, I was asked to lead a piece of work together with our partner Accenture, who are a global organisation, in identifying what the future of policing looks like. 3 key drivers for that. Looking at the screen, as you look at it to the left, the face is intended to reflect a significant shift in policing emphasis to being about protecting vulnerable people from harm. Domestic abuse, child sexual exploitation, honour-based violence, human trafficking. Stuff that, thankfully, the majority of the public never see and never experience. But for those people who do experience it, it changes their lives forever, and it often happens behind closed doors. So a significant shift in policing emphasis into the private space and protecting vulnerable people from harm. The picture in the middle at the bottom is intended to reflect technology, the exponential rise in technology. I'm going to talk a little bit more around the themes and trends in that very shortly. 95% of what we're doing through our 2020 programme is driven both by those wider societal factors. But the money in the corner reflects the reality across the public sector in terms of austerity. In the 5 years through to 2014-15, West Midlands Police realised £126 million worth of savings. We anticipate the need to make a further £130 million by 2020. That equates to £250 million from our headline operating costs, 25% of our total operating costs. In the public sector, the bulk of that money goes on people. So our organisation is getting smaller as the challenges and the complexities of policing get ever broader. So we set ourselves a question at the start of our work. By 2020, set against the funding backdrop, how can West Midlands Police deliver what matters most to the public today? Because the here and now of policing is fundamental. We can't suddenly shut up shop and say, hello, we'll be back in 2020. We have a responsibility to prevent crime, protect the public, and help people in need 24/7. So it's delivering transformation alongside the here and now challenges, whilst at the same time transforming what we do to ever more effectively manage long-term demand for service. So it's complex, it's challenging, but it is hugely, hugely exciting. And as somebody who has been a police officer for over 26 years now, hugely proud to do what I do and work with incredible people doing life-changing things every single day. The complexity and the challenge is the like of which none of us have ever experienced in our careers. But you strip back all of that complexity and policing will always be about people. What I've put up here are our values. Values that we developed together with colleagues, together with the public, together with partners. And as we look ahead to the future, I just want to take a moment to look back nearly 200 years, because in 1829, Sir Robert Peel created British policing. Some fundamental principles are focused on prevention and an emphasis on our relationship, because the police are the public and the public are the police. In our values of the 21st century, Peel's principles are fundamentally reflected: an emphasis on prevention, an emphasis on offering friendship and service to the public. So it's really important as we look to the future that we also reflect and bring to life the core values that really resonate with colleagues and the public around the purpose of British policing. So I just really want to rattle through this very quickly. This slide doesn't do justice to 6 months of work that involved tens, if not hundreds of thousands of hours of colleagues' time, partners' time, citizens' time. And I'm going to show you a slide at the end around the importance of legitimacy and involving people. Millions of different bits of data to create what we call our blueprint for the future. This reflects our ambition. At the centre is what we're here to do. We're here to prevent crime, protect the public, and help those in need. Driven by trusting our people, driven by using information, and digital and particularly big data and data-driven insight is key to the provision of information. 4 themes around the outside. The pink one is about being an organisation that is designed to listen and reassure. Our fundamental relationship here with the public that we hold dear, that enables us to police effectively. Within this space, thinking particularly around digital, new opportunities to create ways for the public to connect with us online, a very active use of social media, and really understanding that a significant proportion of the public want to interact with policing ever more digitally. But the thing I would emphasise, none of this is intended to replace the human relationships that are at the heart of what we do. They are intended to enhance them. Geared to prevent crime. This we describe as the game changer, working with our partners, working with the community to prevent people being harmed, because it helps make people's lives better, it reduces demand, it enables us to save money. Within this space is very much around how we use data to understand challenges for people who are offending, challenges for families who are really struggling, and a whole range of work, particularly in helping children and young people not getting involved in committing crime. The green theme, prepared to respond at pace. This is not about driving our police cars with blue flashing lights and loud sirens ever faster. This is how we bring in, process, use information, how we deploy mobile technology to colleagues out there on the ground to help them make the most effective, informed decisions at the earliest possible opportunity. We have, in the last year, deployed thousands of body-worn cameras to operational colleagues out on the streets to enable them to do their job really effectively, gather evidence, and also minimize a whole range of sort of complaints that are potentially very spurious, freeing up time to be ever more effective. We are just about to deploy between now and Christmas over 3,000 Samsung Galaxy Note 4 smartphones to our 24/7 operational officers and our neighbourhood officers, such that they will be able to access a range of information with an initial relatively small suite of apps, but that will grow over time such that they can stay out on the streets, visible, connecting to the public, information in the palm of their hand rather than having to keep constantly coming back to a desktop in a police station. And then the orange theme, an organisation that's ready to learn and adapt, is very much around understanding the world around us, understanding how things are changing, really developing and supporting our people to deliver in a constantly changing world. So, bringing it down to the purpose of coming along today, because from that blueprint has come a programme of over 30 different projects, such that by 2020, there will not be a single part of West Midlands Police that has been untouched by transformation. The scale, the complexity of what we are doing is the like of which is not being done certainly anywhere else in the UK, if not in the world. And we do this on a really strong foundation. I don't stand here to show off or be arrogant, but I think it's really important to share. The day before we started working with Accenture, West Midlands Police was one of only 5 forces nationally assessed as outstanding by Her Majesty's Inspectorate of Constabulary. Last year, we remained in that position, outstanding, alongside 5 others. And a couple of weeks ago, we were assessed as outstanding, one of only 2 forces in the country, and consistently have been the only metropolitan force policing an urban area to get that sort of assessment. I share that to say we're building on a really strong foundation, but our ambition to do ever more and do things differently is intended to reflect we can never stand still because of the pace and change, particularly in technology and digital. So where do the digital bits fit? I've talked about how we enhance our relationship and legitimacy with the public we serve. I am, having led on the development of the blueprint with Accenture for the last year, have been leading 5 key projects. One is around digital experience for citizens, creating new online ways for people to get advice, report incidents, track the progress of their incidents, and also for officers to be able to generate statements online. We're working with a design agency known as Fjord, who are part of Accenture Interactive and Digital, work on a global basis, and we're designing all of this from the perspective of the citizens' needs, not just taking what we currently do and chucking it online. So the legitimacy of involving people right at the heart of that. And we anticipate being in a position to launch that through a new web portal early into next year. I've talked about the changing context within which we operate, and I want to cover 3 things within that. Changing patterns of demand. Ever more crime and criminality is being committed online, from trolling right the way through to serious and organized criminal groups, terrorist organizations who are using the dark web to facilitate their criminality. So looking and thinking, not just how do we become ever more responsive to that, but how we work with industry, how we work with partners to prevent those kind of things happening in the first place. Recognizing those changing patterns of demand, how we develop our people, developing their skills, their capabilities, and their culture, such that digital and tech doesn't just feature in terms of cybercrime specialists, but actually every single person is thinking digital opportunities. If a car's been stolen, when you look at all the information that's contained within a sat-nav, if somebody's house has been burgled, actually seeing digital as core to mainstream policing and investigation. And then the third one is around data-driven insight, how we use not just police data, but police data together with data from partners to really give us an understanding around what is happening in the lives of individuals and what's happening within our communities. And then the third digital opportunity, equipping colleagues with tech that will help them become more effective and productive in their work. And I've given you a couple of examples, body-worn cameras and mobile devices. Just a couple of more slides from me. You probably can't read all of that, but I really want to emphasize that digital doesn't replace human relationships. It never will. It enhances what we do. This is what we call our Thrive Plus grading profile. We deal with a whole raft of stuff. We have over 2,000 calls that come into us every single day. Sometimes people need our help very quickly because their life is at risk. Somebody's been seriously hurt or a crime is happening there and then. That's happening. You can absolutely still expect to ring 999, hear a reassuring human voice on the end of that phone, and hear sirens and blue lights turning up to help you. But we also do a whole raft of stuff, high volume, low risk stuff, that actually we can better serve the public and we can reduce demand, freeing up time to focus on the more serious and protecting the vulnerable from harm, where we shift digital into the high volume, low risk type stuff. So I put that up to demonstrate the level of sophistication that exists. It's not digital at all costs, it's digital dependent on threat, risk, harm, and vulnerability. Just want to share with you a couple of slides which demonstrate legitimacy. This is our Police and Crime Commissioner, David Jameson, who was part and has been part of developing our digital experience for citizens. We've used practical examples to look at when and how we use digital to improve our service for the people of the West Midlands. And this one is a citizen. Through all of this, we're testing with members of the public, reflecting the human relationship through digital. And I really want to finish by going full circle to say the opportunities are around bringing people and digital together, involving people in shaping the future, because that creates legitimacy it creates buy-in, and it puts a significant emphasis on what is most important in all of this, which is culture change. Colleagues changing the way in which they work, the public thinking differently around policing service and how they can interact with us. And this is just a snapshot. I showed you the blueprint earlier on, the beach ball picture, as I often call it. This is just a snapshot of the amount of work over and above data analysis and capture that we did to shape what you saw, such that when we launched it last March, it felt like a bit of a damp squib. Everyone was like, oh, right, that's quite interesting. And then when we sat back and reflected, what we realized was there were no surprises in there, because people had had a say in shaping and influencing that right the way through. So kind of my starting point in setting the scene, because I know my fire service colleagues are going to talk about some very specific digital capabilities they've been developing, I felt the most valuable thing I could bring for you to think about and reflect on tonight is bringing people and digital together to change lives, which is what we are doing and will be doing ever more of across West Midlands Police and more widely with our partners. Thank you for listening.
Thank you, Sally. Don't sit down yet. Has anybody got any questions for Sally?
Thank you very much. I really enjoyed that. And actually, it was a nice antidote to some of the cynicism that I think pervades the media at the moment about the changing nature of policing. You know, the idea that the police should become more accessible is for some reason treated. And, you know, I even felt it myself until I saw it up there. The idea that it's a good thing for the digitization of some of the core services, that it's a good thing for the police to have a Twitter profile and so on. Having said that, it always comes back to what's in it for us. How does one pitch the police, so to speak? Obviously, the Accenture profile is a big one. Accenture are a huge company. They probably don't outsource. But on the other hand, if it's going to be a genuinely community-based program, and if you're going to keep people out of crime, they need to be able to just walk in the door and talk to somebody. Is there a channel through commercially, which an SME, maybe a startup the likes of which E4F support, could simply come to the police and say, look, we've got an idea for an app or how to improve one, and then take it from there?
Okay, I guess in terms of our primary relationship at a local level, it's through our neighbourhood teams. So every single neighbourhood across the West Midlands continues to have a neighbourhood policing presence. There are a number of areas elsewhere in the country that have been unable to maintain that. So every single neighbourhood has a presence, a mixture of police community support officers and police officers. So that's the kind of primary local relationship. In terms of opportunities for organisations to get involved and influence the work, there is stuff on our website around the kind of things that we are looking for help in developing. Because across those 35 projects, the way in which our contract with Accenture is structured is such that some of those projects we're delivering on our own, so West Midlands Police, and a good example of that is another project I'm leading, which is active citizens work, and there's a digital aspect to that. We've just launched a capability called WM Now through an organisation called Neighbourhood Alerts, who work with 21 police forces all around the country. So active citizens is a good example of a project that we are delivering solely through West Midlands Police. There are then opportunities for us to deliver together with Accenture, who are our partner. But with every project, there is also the opportunity that we can go to market and deliver projects with other third-party suppliers. So probably the best and the simplest advice would be on our website, and again, I can share it with Lee, so she can share it out to people who've come along tonight. There is information around the kind of projects that we are looking to procure now and through the next sort of 5-year period. The other piece being, we will also be looking to recruit people with very specific tech and digital skills to become part of our IT and digital capabilities. Because within all of this, actually, we will not be working with Accenture ad infinitum. There are a number of stage gates throughout our journey through to ultimately 2020, but at 2020, we need to be self-sufficient. There's loads of knowledge transfer going on. You know, increasingly, we will be looking out there into the market to bring people in to come and be part of our IT and digital digital capability.
Thank you.
My pleasure. Thanks for the question.
Behind you, Pia.
Hi, just exactly the question I wanted to ask, but in addition to that, do you have any examples of local SME type of firms that you're working with at the moment? If you're not, that's fine. And what is the decision-making process on the commercial level? So we can go on the website, we can see the opportunities available, we decide we're a fit for one of those opportunities. What then happens, and could you just describe what the decision-making process to engage a SME
Okay.
might be?
We are not currently working with SMEs. We have to operate within a public service and policing procurement framework. I'm an operational cop, which so the whole commercial procurement piece is certainly not something that I am well versed on. Our colleagues in contract and procurement, legal services, do all the really complex stuff around commissioning and procuring of various different services. So again, in terms of contact points, because we are interested in exploring how we can work with a range of organisations, but we have to do it within the constraints of public sector procurement law, which at times can be a little bit restrictive in being creative in our thinking. Our Chief Constable is actively involved at a national level on a range of things kind of within the finance world as well. So, we've got to constantly look at not just influencing the West Mids, but influencing at a national level. But again, I can get sort of contact details with people who are much better placed on the whole commercial procurement contract stuff than I am.
Sally, can I just add to that? One of the things we're looking at is this whole issue of SME engagement with the public sector, and the procurement issue always gets in the way. So I was in Amsterdam looking at how they're doing it, and they actually have a system of procuring the thing they call startup in residence. And what they're doing is issuing challenges in the way we're doing here. And as part of the acceptance onto the challenge, there's a pre-procurement route that is EU acceptable, and hence, at least for now, acceptable within the UK, that allows you to work with the startup, and in the event they deliver, there's an open route to market. So if the stuff that any of you want to look at with that, I'd be like to talk to you so that we can actually feed that in as part of what we're trying to do as a mechanism, and obviously police and fire fit into that as an effective way.
Thank you, David. And the other thing that I think it's really helpful for me to share, and David, you've just prompted me to think about this. I've talked a lot about what we're doing in policing, but I'm also very heavily involved through the West Midlands Combined Authority in looking at partner opportunities around digital. Martin Reeves, who is the Chief Exec at Coventry City Council, leads on digital for the Combined Authority. He's also the Chief Exec Designate for the Combined Authority and leads for the Society of Local Authority Chief Execs on digital. Pauline, who's just arrived, was in a meeting with me a few weeks ago. Sorry, Pauline, to embarrass you. But there were a number of us, and David was there as well, I think, if I remember rightly. Yeah. Starting to think about how we join up on some key themes in the wider partnership across the region to drive some of this. And that's where I think, David, the point that you make, there are some massive opportunities in terms of public sector reform. So not just police, but health and local authorities who are significantly bigger than we are, the fire service, the ambulance service, the wider public service realm. The opportunities there, I think, are where the next big, the big wins are really. So I think it'd be, useful for all of you to sort of keep updated around what's happening in that combined authority public sector sphere. Interestingly, I was at a Wired event down in London a couple of weeks ago, and there was a guy from the States who spoke, and he talked about, I'm going to try and find the photo that I tweeted, but he talked about the kind of three key areas, big areas of opportunity for digital to the future. Government, in our terms, public sector, was one of those three absolute fundamentals. So, you know, I think a lot of the time people will see digital in the context of corporates and private sector, which, you know, I'm not disputing is hugely important and is a massive, massive market. But, you know, I guess my steer to all of you would be there's a heck of a lot already happening and starting to happen in the public service sphere where we need the skills and the insight of people that, you know, I'm a cop. I've learned a lot about digital over the last 2 years. And it's a real privilege, and I'm, you know, my mind and my head blows off at times with all of the complexity. But actually, you know, there are people with skills, and together we can create the best thing rather than everybody having to understand different people's perspectives, if that makes sense. So I'll stop rambling.
Thank you very much, Sally. Thank you. Right. Next, we've got Imran from the fire service. I'll just put your slides on. That went better than I thought.
Yeah. Hello. Hi, everybody. My name is Imran Lal. I'm the Senior Multimedia Developer at the Command Development Centre at Westminster Fire Service. I'll be doing a presentation today on simulating real incidents with using tech. Just a bit of background about myself. I've got a degree in computer science and specialised in multimedia technology. I'm a non-uniformed staff member. Been with the fire service about 13 years now, creating e-learning content, web design, web development, and all kind of multimedia stuff. This is the Command Development Centre where we work. This is based in Smethwick. This is the control room, which is where is part of our simulation suite, where we do all the training we do. As you can see, there's a number of pod rooms that feed into the main simulation suite. Each pod room represents a different view of an incident. So when we create these simulations, we look at all the different possible views you would have if an incident commander went out there and went to a real incident. And what we have a camera in each one. This is one of the pod rooms, and you can see what we do is we project a picture on there, or a multimedia picture, or a video clip that we put up there. That's just a pod room in action. So what I wanted to do is I just wanted to quickly just go over a couple of the video clips we do and how we use them. The picture I'm about to show you is an incident of a residential property or a flat above a commercial property on Hagley Road. Now, normally when an incident commander goes to a fire, he would normally have access to the front of the building and the back of the building. Well, in a similar principle, I'll go out, I'll take some pictures of the front and the back, and then I'll create a number of video clips based on how I think the fire will progress. So we have a subject matter expert who sits with us, and he'll tell me, and we'll storyboard it. And just give you an example. So this is a static image that we've put some video stuff on there. So we photoshopped it, we've done After Effects, we put all the effects in. And then again, I'll create a number of video clips, and depending on their decision making, we can increment on the video clips. So this might be one of the initial video clips they see, and then depending on their decision making, it might go worse. Now this is quite extreme, but I wanted to show you that we increment to this kind of level. As you can see, the shop now is involved. The fire is spreading laterally as well. And that's the rear of the building now. So you can see there's a lot going on. So what happens, the incident commander will go into a particular pod room. And then, so if he goes in the first pod, it'll be the front. And if he goes in the back, it'll be a different view. This is another one. We use green screen element. We put people into the windows. And again, depending on their decision making, we can increment on the different video clips. It's a matter of setting the scene. We also do heritage sites, so things like this. Again, this is a number of clips. This is one of the other clips that we've done. So we're creating these, trying to make it real as possible. So here's the next one. Oh yeah, so this one is now simulating a riot in Birmingham. So we used a couple of green screen elements. So what I did was, this is I think back of New Street Station. So we took a still image, cleaned it up a bit on Photoshop. We tried to add some people to it because we want to, the incident is based around how does the fire service access the building when there's a riot going on. So we wanted a moving image. So we had about, I think, 3 or 4 colleagues in the office. We dressed them up and filmed them a couple of times. And then that was the end product. as you can see in the top left corner, there's actually a fire coming out there. And again, depending on the decision making, we can increase the fire, make it less or make it more. We can do a lot of manipulation. But there's actually only 3 of people here, which we've green screened. Okay. Sometimes we can't get the pictures, so sometimes when we want the pictures of a particular building, or it's a building somewhere on the other side of the country, what we tend to use is Google Images or something like that, like an aerial view or something. And we say, well, we've got some aerial footage now from the news or from the police, and this is what we create. This is a bit extreme again. It was for an exercise in Birmingham. It's very extreme, I know. It was for an exercise we did a couple of years ago. Again, this is one of the far-end clips if things go really bad. So you can see there's a collapse there. And again, this is started off as a normal static image that we've manipulated and added to. We've also contacted local BBC News reporters, and we've commissioned them. So we've provided them with a little script, and we said, look, read this out. They've got their own studio. And they create a video clip for us, which we then edit and then use. So I'm just going to quickly show you the bit of that. So this was like a terrorist attack, and again, we've put in the Sky News elements, we put all this in, we put the CCTV footage in, and again, he's describing, all he's doing, he was reading out a script, but the way we've edited it, it looks like he's looking at something. This particular video clip was used for an exercise, for an assessment for a high-ranking officer. Again, it's about making it realistic as possible. So this was something we were working on. And again, we manipulated and created all the different bits to it. Okay, we could also do train elements. So we've done another one where we've gone out, took a picture of a rail track, used 3D Studio Max to create 3D objects, 3D trains, and then we've put them into the scenario. And again, we've put some rain effects and try to make it realistic. And again, this is just one of the clips that can increment to. There should be a side view. So that's the side view. Again, these couple of the points we wanted to, with this exercise, was because it's raining, it's a steep embankment. How does the incident commander get down? How do you safely get the casualties out? So there's a lot of learning points coming from this. But again, this is just one of the clips that we use and one of the scenarios we do. And the other thing is now going back to the XVR. Now, this is the 3D simulation software they're currently started to use. Unlike what I showed you previously, there were static images that we've manipulated and made into video clips. They're not dynamic images, because if an incident commander says, I want a firefighter running through that door or a fire engine parked outside, I can't show that because I have to physically create all of those video clips. Whereas with this new software, which is a Dutch-based software we're currently using, and I believe over 20 different brigades in the country are using it now, allows us to create 3D scenarios with all the different 3D elements. So I think currently we have about 27 different environments, ranging from airports, canals, high-rise, everything. And what we can do is place all the 3D different elements. We can add police, ambulance, we can add casualties, fire, airplanes, anything, and we can manipulate it in different ways. This works quite well for us because it's less resource intensive. Unlike what I showed you before, even though I'm sort of a graphic designer IT, I spend most of the week either dressed as a policeman or an ambulance man or a milkman or something like that, because constantly getting us to dress up, and we go in and we say, look, do you want to do this and do that? Which is good, but something like this, we need less resources because it's all 3D elements. I'm just going to show you briefly, quick clip about what kind of stuff you can do with it. So this is the high-rise element to it. And you can see that we can add different elements. We can change wind direction, different fire effects. We're zooming in there. And again, you can even interact with certain, not all the buildings, but certain buildings you can actually go in. And maybe, again, similar to what our police colleague said, this is just to enhance the training we do already. We do a lot of on-site training. We are out there. We're still doing a lot of training, but this is just one element that we're looking at now, just to enhance our knowledge and just get more people involved with it. And again, this is, you use a joystick with this software or a joypad, and you can walk around the different scenarios. And you can change the environment. You can make it snow. You can have it flood. You can have all the different elements. It's used, like I said, it uses Unity 5 as a backend. So it is low polygon graphics on it, but they're constantly improving it and making the graphics a lot more better. So that leads on to how we use XVR. Currently, we have XVR at a static location, where idea is to have 2 static locations across the brigade. We currently have one up and running at the Command Development Center. But because we want to obviously ensure that our 5-minute attendance time is always main priority, we started to look at different ways of different methods of delivering this XVR training, which is this 3D simulation training. And we looked at a mobile unit, so a bit of a unit like a caravan of some sort, where we've got all the utilities, all the IT equipment, the screens in it, so we can turn that up at any station, and everybody's still on the run. So you can use it, you can train and develop it, and if the fire alarm goes off or the bells ring, they can go out straight away. So we're currently looking and developing a mobile unit. We have one mobile unit, and we're currently, hopefully, going to be launching our second one sometime early next year. This is just a quick video now, just to show you how it looks and how it's going to work. So it's a bit of a trailer, which opens up. XVR is used across the world. I think we're one of the first brigades ever to look at it in this sense and create its own unique mobile unit, which we could take out. So that's the joystick we have in there. We have a screen in there. We have a 42-inch TV in there, which they can control and just walk around all the different scenarios. We have normally a facilitator in there, a subject matter expert, who's obviously assisting them, or currently we're using it for development purpose only, but eventually the idea is to also use it as an assessment tool. So the trail itself is broken into 2 bits. We have a training bit and a back end where we do all the work. That's that. Also, that's me, we're messing about with it. The XVR unit is also, XVR software is also compatible to the Oculus Rift. We've currently got 2 development kits that I purchased last year, so we're constantly playing with it and trying to improve on it. I know they're constantly developing new stuff on it, and we're constantly trying to innovate and trying to do different things with it. So, yeah, that's it really. Thank you for your time. If you've got any questions, let me know.
Thank you very much. Has anybody got any questions? Well, you got away with that. Wow.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you very much, my dear. Right, last up we have Eddie, who is going to talk about the 999 Fire app.
Correct.
There you go, my dear. Yep. Good,
Hello, everyone. Just to introduce myself, my name's Eddie Salmons. I'm a operational watch officer. Been in the job 24 years, 20 years on a fire appliance, on the back, putting the fires out, to in the front and manage those incidents that Imran went through earlier. Currently work in the R&D department. It's a support function, basically looking at innovation and how that can help us in the fire service. As Sally mentioned there, we've all got many challenges ahead as a public sector organisation, and we have to look at doing things differently. We can't remain static. So part of this department, as Imran has mentioned there, looking at how we manage our incident commanders, how we inform them to make those decisions where they can do it in an environment which supports that development. And then also supporting the fact of how we get our resources out into the communities of the West Midlands when responding to emergencies. Traditionally, this is done by an operator. A 999 call is sent into a control room. The operator will then try and get all the information required in order to make an appropriate response. Now, depending on that information, as you can see, if we had all of Birmingham on fire there, one fire engine probably isn't going to make much of an impact on that incident. So it has real significance to us as an organisation to make sure we get the speed and the weight of that response correct in those early stages to stop any potential damage, increase of damage, harm to the public, or not managing that incident correctly. So we came up with a system, and I'm going to go through a few slides of a concept. The logo's different now, but you'll have to bear with me on that one. So it's called 999i, and it's 2 years on. So 2 years, we come up with a concept to enable us to stream an actual emergency incident. So I'm going to go through why we came up with that. So this is an actual call. You turn it up a bit, please. So this is the sort of thing our operators deal with. That's as loud as it goes. Okay, so from that information, a fire outside for us is one appliance, maybe a BRV we called, a brigade response vehicle, 3 firefighters, about 5 minutes of water, and we'd make a response to that, being a secondary fire as we would class that. First crew arrived, and that's what they were confronted with. That was the incident over in Smethwick, which resulted in one of the biggest attendances for West Midlands. Ended up being, I think I got some stats here for you. I think within the first 10 minutes we received 429 calls of that incident. All stating around the same. Had a plume visible for 40 miles. We set our attendance standards of 5 minutes within the West Midlands. That's an evidence-based approach. Survivability of anyone involved in an emergency or a fire incident is greatly increased if we can get there within that 5 minutes. And that's why we set that. The first message that went back from that crew was make pumps 35, which is basically an assistance message asking for an additional 35 resources to that incident. That meant that poured in from all the regions, so all our surrounding fire and rescue services had to support West Midlands in dealing with that incident. See, 1,900 tonnes of CO2, and we put over 14 million litres of water in the first 24 hours. Now, the interesting part about that is that within 5 minutes of that incident happening, it had globally reached through social media. We had not even seen any images of that at all as a fire and rescue service before those crews arrived. So, we looked at some stats, we did some research, and we looked at 65% of 999 calls are made by smartphones. So, if all these smartphones are making these 999 calls, who are the people making the calls? And what are people doing with their smartphones? Now, if you look through, the one on the left there looks what people are, and that can't see it very clear there. But it's looking at what people use, and it is things like Facebook, it is social media, it is pictures, it is videos. And then we're looking at the people and who they are using it with. So as the population gets older, we can see that there's more and more increase in the number of smartphones out there. Now, we looked at the limitations with apps. Now, who's going to download an app with the intention of being in an emergency situation in order to press that app in order to send some imagery? So that wasn't really a viable option for us in dealing with this. So there we go, there's the stats. So what we looked at is a text messaging. So it basically texts a link to that person's phone, which enables us to take control of that phone's GPS. So we can use the video from it, we can upload images, and we get the caller location, Wi-Fi, and we can also start using that information. That information goes back to the control room in the form of imagery, GPS locations, and then that can be distributed. At the moment, we're looking at emergency responders, can be used for Coast Guard, police, fire, ambulance. And we're also looking at trying to collaborate those images across all services. And then the next phase of that will be getting those images actually sent forward to those first responders who can start that risk assessment process, as Imran has discussed. When we've done all that training, the first thing we've got to think about is risk. It's not just about putting water on a fire, about cutting people out of vehicles. There's a lot of associated risks for our crews and the public when we arrive in these scenes. And these risk assessments have to be done within a couple of seconds. That gives us the advantage to start that pre-planning process before our crews are actually in attendance. And then we're looking at other functions across not only just fire, ambulance, 111 service. I mean, the picture at the bottom there talks about pulse oximeters that you can get on your phone just by putting your hand across a sensor. Now, if we can get that sent back via a 111 system, using that live imagery with that sort of details around it, there's other potential that we can use this system for. So, what we did was we developed the app, and we got it in place. I can show you live actually working if you want to afterwards, if somebody wants to come up. But what this actually does is we'll send that link and we can send that. So we got it to a point, we developed it, and then we started looking at another partner to come in and assist in us being able to develop it further, market it, and put it out to the wider audience. And Capita have come in with us, and we're starting to, in partnership, develop this product and trying to distribute it out to the wider audience. And then, obviously, we see it as a future emergency, being a mobile live stream coming in. So that's what 999i is, 2 years on. Just as an additional piece of information, we're just finishing off the testing. For about the past 3 months, we've been testing it for our own training environments. From the 1st of December, we'll be looking to put it out there for live 999 calls and actually start facilitating the use of this for West Midlands Fire Service. So I think that wasn't too long, was it? Anybody got any questions?
Explain how it works when people when you send a text message out and how it works. Is it? So I think it might be interesting how it works if you.
Okay, so Imran would make an emergency call, for example. So he sends out, he's got a 999 call. The operator talks, then makes that mobilisation. So we don't delay any of that mobilisation process from that information they receive. Next phase, they say, we're going to send you a link. That's sent via a text message. They just press on that link, accept, and press start stream. Once they press start stream, that then turns everything on for the phone. They don't have to turn it round. They don't do anything. They can just stand there, either turn and do it that way, or they can upload an image or upload it. That then gets sent directly to the control room, and then we can use that imagery for our own mobilisation. Now, it may not just be for an emergency response. We work with the police. We work with other agencies around safeguarding incidents, around vulnerable people. This could be used to sort of use that information as well to make sure that we're helping those people out in our communities. Thanks, Imran, for that question. Almost like we pre-planned it.
Hi, Nick Carey, Department for Transport. Do you also have plans to support social media? So not just texting, but Snapchat and Facebook chat and
we already do
WhatsApp.
For the work we do within the communities, but as an emergency response, again, it's an app-based approach. So we have Snapchat, we have Facebook, correct me if I'm wrong, Twitter accounts. We have the stations locally using social media, so they're involved locally in them environments rather than a sort of broader. We have a sort of organisational approach, and then it's sort of localised around the work that the crews are doing within those specific communities. This is more than an app-based approach or social media. This is a link to using the technology of that smartphone to assist us in making those responses.
No, what I meant was, would that link work through social media? Because there's plenty of people nowadays that actually don't really use SMS any longer. They'd rather use Snapchat or...
I mean, what we have got a team, and what I would hope when what happens currently is every that information you've received, it's distributed very quickly through those channels out that we've got as well. So obviously, what we do have to be mindful of is some of those images that come in won't be appropriate to be put out on social media. So obviously, we've got to support our own crew, our own teams who've possibly what they're going to be exposed to visually, and then we'll distribute that, accordingly.
have a question as well?
So I had a quick question around the privacy impact, for example, where you're accessing someone's device, and how, I guess, have you considered that, for example?
Yes, we've done a privacy impact assessment, which basically we look at exactly what we can do with that data. Now, obviously that data, because it's being used as an emergent, we're being called, and we're asking if we can use that imagery as part of those terms and conditions of that link. So that will be used for an emergency phase. That will then not be stored on the phone. So as those images are then filmed by that device or that smartphone, they're stored by the organisation, this time being West Midlands Fire Service, in a secure network. So that imagery that person takes then is not stored on that phone. Now, they can film and video anything that they wish to. I mean, we see many things that are posted that has no sort of authorisation by any of our organisations, but what we received will be managed within the data management and the sort of terms and conditions of that. So obviously then, we will then have to destroy that in accordance with the legislation around that. So we won't be distributing images of people without their consent and things like that. It will be used as an emergency response process. Does that answer your question?
Any more questions?
Pauline Roach from R&R Organisation. I saw I-999, sorry, first at Blue Light Camp a couple of years ago, and I thought then that it was to encourage the public to report things so that, devices could get to incidents more quickly. Is that a key feature still of it, or have things changed?
Initially, it will be around a response phase for West Midlands Fire Service. But I think you can see there's a multitude of applications for it. Initially, in this development stage, it will be around supporting those response decisions. So, yeah, from that imagery, from the fire perspective, what we see, supporting, making sure we get the right resources, right weight and speed of response in order for that incident. So it is supporting an instance like that example there, where we're having trouble getting information, or there are many times when people in the West Midlands don't realise where they are in our own motorway network. It can assist in those sort of things, locating where people are, getting that information from them, and if they can't describe, a picture paints 1,000 words, doesn't it? And when we can see that, it will just support it in this initial phase of the project.
Any more questions? No.
It's red. Okay, so I've got a question really about stakeholder management for both yourselves, actually, yourself and Sally. So in terms of the consultancies that you've been working with, what have you done to kind of engage the public in terms of what you're delivering is suitable for that user group?
Some of the headline stats I put up on the last slide demonstrate, as we were developing the blueprint through our neighbourhood teams, we did a whole load of stuff around social media. We ran a campaign over 7 days, posing a range of different questions. In terms of the whole range of projects, many of which are visible out within communities, our local policing unit commanders have regularly been providing updates to the public through partners. There's a whole complex, comprehensive comms plan that we activate on a regular basis. The digital design piece, using methodologies where I think now we have tested and continue to test with over 80 people, range of demographics, particularly in terms of age, around all of the capabilities, and have actually continued to refine those. We held a really intense workshop over one particular day, had over 20 people there. Not senior people like me from policing, but operational colleagues, so 24/7 cops, call handlers. We had some partners, we had some members of the public in there, we had colleagues from the Office of the Police and Crime Commissioner. So in all of it, we're kind of actively doing stuff face-to-face, particularly on the more localised policing stuff, but also using digital and bringing people in to test stuff out.
Thank you.
Great question, because your point is, this is all about legitimacy. We don't disappear off into a sort of basement or a cupboard somewhere and do loads of work and then suddenly come out a few months later and say, oh, look what we've come up with, and everyone goes, well, that's a load of rubbish because we weren't able to influence it. The way in our view, the way in which you design the stuff is as important as the stuff that results. So the involving of people to shape things is absolutely core to it all.
Thank you.
Great question.
Yeah, we're doing the same as that. No.
Partnership work.
Yeah, I mean, engagement, we've got obviously 38 stations. They go out and they are constantly engaging with the public to make sure we communicate that message. And they talk, as Sally said, face-to-face is the important thing to make sure that the service we're providing is what that community want within that area. Now, it isn't one size fits all for West Midlands, and there are different projects and different ways that stations approach those communities from the information that they receive. As an organisation for something like this, we're very keen, obviously, when we're not just going to sort of, once it goes to live 999 calls, just not announce that. There is a strategy in place where we'll be doing advertisement, it will be going out. There was something went on the 1st of November around the fact that we're aiming for this start date. And then obviously the fact is that the product is not finished at that point. From the 1st of December, the public will be able to feedback into that, and we'll be able to see what they think in order shaping how that becomes so.
An iterative process, yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks, Eddie. In the digital inclusion sphere, you know, there's some really fantastic examples, Barclays, Lloyds, really pushing digital inclusion, particularly in terms of older demographics. I think there's a view that is widely held that if you happen to be over a certain age, you're not going to be digitally savvy. Actually, all of the stats tend to show some of the fastest adoption is amongst older people. You know, so how we learn, not just in policing or fire or public service, from people who are doing digital inclusion work, such that we don't have to feel that we've got to do it all, but connect up, learn from them, and see digital inclusion as a collective societal responsibility rather than us all doing it in lots of separate individual ways. So I think there's some really exciting, cool stuff happening in that digital inclusion sphere that we can all learn from, connect up with, and really kind of push the momentum. So my constant mantra is people see digital as an opportunity that will help rather than something that means people are detracting and sort of moving away from relationships with the public.
Any more?
I have a quick question. Sorry. Sally, you were really helpful in mentioning how if people have an amazing idea, want to get engaged with police, how they can get in touch via your website and your links. I'm just wondering, with the fire service, do you guys have a similar platform, or what's your pathway?
Yeah, we was actually just discussing this, and I think the best route for any sort of innovation or ideas around it, any ways of sort of assisting what we do are very much appreciated. So there is an RDTI team, and I think it might be worth distributing those contact details for any of those ideas to come in. As been mentioned, the procurement process is a little bit of a hindrance for us, but ideas and concepts to push us into those directions is certainly well appreciated. So yeah, we'll try and distribute those details for any ideas that want to come in out here. Yeah.
I'm happy to facilitate that. So if I know most of you got my email address, so just one more question, I'm afraid.
Sorry, not really a question, but maybe part way of a solution. For a lot of the SMEs that are looking to engage that are restricted by procurement, I work for a company called SCC. We're in partnership with the guys here at iCentrum, and we're on a number of government frameworks which will open a route of procurement legally for any organisation that has an innovative idea that they want to take to any of the public sector organisations, but they don't have a direct route to the framework. We have frameworks that we could do the pass-through for. Very happy to have that conversation.
Thank you, that's a great offer. Any more? Right, thank you very much, all of you. Let's give a big round of applause. Thank you very much.